We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios.
Visit MTE.com.
Middle Tennessee Electric, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is a WGNS Action Line. Talking with Rutherford County newsmakers
since 1947.
This is a WGNS Action Line. Now, your host, Scott Walker.
Joining us in studio this morning, Rutherford County Mayor Joe Carr, all the way from the mayor's office.
That's right.
A long commute.
A long commute, a very pleasant walk. I hit all the traffic lights. I have to say, Scott, whatever it is you want to talk about, we should just go ahead and put in the dumpster and just open the phone lines up for shop and swap, because I'm telling you, that's good radio right there. And I'm not being in the least bit sarcastic. I mean, that provides information, community need, and great humor. I mean, that is the perfect radio trifecta right there, Scott.
You never can tell what's going to be called.
To the listeners, Scott and I are talking off air about, wow, Swap and Shop could go global with the new format.
That's right. You'll get a sheep 1 minute, and then the next minute somebody is trying to sell half their house.
Well, and Charlie Pitts has got this song, right?
Yep.
That he does.
He does the opening.
Yeah, his opening, which is perfect. Which is a perfect song for Swap and Shop, and the things that you get, it's just you just never know. And I love it. It just shows you the community, man.
I mean, that alone, you've got a singing barber who does the whole intro.
I've known Charlie Pitts. I'm 68. I bet you I've known Charlie Pitts since before I was a teenager. I've known Charlie Pitts probably 55, 60 years. So he's the same Charlie today that he was back then.
There was a program on Netflix. It was a series. I think it was Netflix or either Amazon Prime, but it was called Swap and Shop. And it was...
I did not know.
Yeah, it focused on, I think it was a radio station in Chattanooga maybe, and it was all about the variety of calls that they got every single day, but they took it a step further, and they would actually take the cameras out to the person's house who was selling whatever it was they're selling.
It was kind of like interviews.
Yeah. It was an interesting show. I think it only lasted 2 seasons, but it was interesting to watch just because we could relate to it.
Well, I love walking in a little bit early when you or your dad are doing Swap and Shop, because I get the last 10 or 15 minutes and there's always an item or something that going, okay, we need to unpack this a little bit more. There's a lot more here than what meets the eye.
Yeah, you want to dive into it deeper. What's really happening here? Do you get
stuff.
Weird calls at the mayor's office?
I'm sorry?
I could imagine.
Oh, we get some really bizarre calls, but it's people in different stages of life, quite honestly, and so you have to be careful. Even though some of it's pretty humorous, you got to be careful about your humor with that, because some people are quite serious about it, and everybody's at different stages of life. But yes, we get a similar variety of calls that WGNS gets on Swap and Shop.
I can imagine. I think really any government service, I could imagine most government offices, they get some off the wall calls and questions.
Yeah, we every day.
I bet
it's every single day.
And visitors, that's the other thing. Yeah. And we get visitors up here on occasion as well.
And we have an open door policy in the mayor's office. I mean, anybody can come into the courthouse. As you know, it's a museum. It's been around since well before the Civil War. It's one of 6 pre-Civil War courthouses left in the state. It's a historical landmark. So it's an icon for the county, if you want to know the truth about it. And so everybody has access. And so that's where the mayor's office is. And people come in and see if I'm available. And if I am, I'm glad to see them. So it's good.
We don't have an open door policy.
No, I know. You got to press the button.
That's right.
Well, you got a little different environment than we do. We've got security, and we've got a number of people, and sometimes it's just 1 or 2 people in this building or this office. So you have to be a little more careful.
We get letters like, just really nice complimentary letters from like inmates at the jail, sometimes at the state penitentiary, about news stories and stuff that we run. So
we get those same letters.
Do you get those letters too?
We get those same letters.
Do you ever respond?
Phone calls, visits. Yeah. All right.
Why am I here? I don't
exactly.
know. We had one letter. I'm not kidding. It was 15 pages long. This was fairly recent.
Wow.
And
that's a thesis.
Yeah, it was. And it was almost written as good as one. It basically blamed all the problems, the reason for the arrest, this, that, on the ex-wife and the kids. I'm thinking, well, actually, no. But you never can
Isn't
tell.
life good?
Yeah,
life
yeah.
is just good. Don't miss the humor in life.
I love the letters where you got basically a whole letter written on the envelope on the outside of the letter itself.
Yes, I've
in
got
great
those
big
too.
letters, Those are the scary ones to open.
They ran out of paper, so they used the envelope to finish
Yeah,
their diatribe. That's right.
We set those aside.
Those
This is
are
a
special.
forensics team, not us.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So what's happening with county government
Well,
right
we're
now?
right in the middle. Thank you, Scott. And I guess listeners are probably going, when are they going to quit chumming it up about swap and shop? But the county is right in the middle of budget season, and we're in the last 2 weeks of sitting down with our directors and all our constitutional officers and putting this big giant puzzle together that's called the budget. And that's exactly what the budget is. It's a big puzzle where every piece has to fit with the adjoining pieces to make this large collage or picture, right? And this collage or this picture that this puzzle represents, it means no new taxes, balanced budgets, taking care of our employees, and making sure that we maintain a healthy balance sheet reflected in the 3 AAA bond ratings. We do those 4 things, and that's what constitutes the budget. And so we're wrapping up meeting with the departments. I can tell you, after meeting with all the constitutional officers except for one, and all the department heads, every single department and constitutional officer has been extraordinarily cooperative in working with the mayor's office on this very, very difficult budget year. We have got some inflationary costs to our budget. We're seeing a 2% increase in our pension. By the way, if you don't know this, Rutherford County is one of 2 counties in the entire state that doesn't require an employee match to their pension, to TCRS. And that is phenomenal. So that's requiring a $2 million hit to the budget, and that's coming from the state comptroller's office. We don't decide that. That's determined by the comptroller's office of the Treasury. And then, of course, we've got our health insurance. So we're seeing a 30% increase in the premiums of our health insurance. And so we have to absorb a big part of all of that. And so right out of the gate, and along with some other inflationary costs, we're probably talking about a $10 million hit to the budget that we didn't have last year, and it's just on inflation.
Now, when you say constitutional officers who give their updates on what they need,
they present their budget, and then
who are these constitutional officers?
So it's the trustee's office, the county clerk's office, the judicial clerk's office, Heather Dawborn over at Register of Deeds. These are the offices that come and then present their budget so we can put all this together in a package.
Okay. And each year, do the heads of departments, do they typically come and speak before the county commission and say, hey,
Correct.
Here's what's going on with us?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So where they first, Michael Smith, the director, and I, does a really good job. We sit down with each director and each constitutional officer, and they make their budget requests. And then we take those budget requests, and then it's our responsibility to fit those requests in with all the other requests so they fit those pieces of the puzzle fit together so it creates this balanced budget with no increase in property taxes. Because if we start having departments come and make requests for new purchases or more personnel, that then impacts the other pieces in the budget, and then that's what necessarily drives up the need for property taxes. And we've told our directors and our constitutional officers, do not come with any new spending requests. If you do, be prepared to justify them.
Every year, we hear different rumors and ideas and thoughts on what is going to change about the government over the next 12 months, over the next 24 months, and so forth. And one of those things that we heard recently, people talking about the idea of the city of Murfreesboro having their own independent ambulance service, and how that would kind of change the shape of Rutherford County's ambulance service, because, of course, Murfreesboro uses Rutherford County.
They do. And I know that was a big issue with Mayor Ketchrin, my predecessor, before I got here. And my clear understanding is that has been resolved quite satisfactorily on behalf of both Murfreesboro and the county. Rutherford County is responsible for EMS. We have right now one of the best response rates, if not the best, in the entire state. Our response rate from the time a call is dispatched to the time they actually arrive on scene is less than 7 minutes on average. That's pretty good. And that's countywide. And so that includes the rural areas and everything where it can take 10 or 15 minutes to get there. So we have one of the better response rates. If Murfreesboro is trying to determine how to better create response time, I get that. But there are many solutions available to helping do that within the current system of the county's EMS, as opposed to starting a second EMS station, which creates some boundary conflicts, because we don't have what's called unified dispatch. And so without unified dispatch, that becomes an additional problem as to where is the jurisdictional line. Because when you dial 911, sometimes the 911 call will show up, it's in the county, when it's in fact coming from the city. And so that has a lot, especially with cell phones, that has a lot to do with who responds and the timeliness of that response. I would argue we've got a very good system that's working very well and in cooperation with the cities, and we need some tweaking but not changing.
Now, I know one of the things you guys have been doing over the last few years, and that is when you build a new public safety building for the fire department, it's also like one of the new ones out at Plainview.
It's an EMS station.
Right. It's also got a place for the ambulance and their station there too.
That's correct. And so we've got the 5 new public health and safety buildings that were financially approved under Mayor Ketron, but constructed and manned operationally with firefighters and EMS along in my term. And we're very, very proud of that expansion of these public health and safety buildings, because it's the welfare of the community that we're looking after. We're also, along with the Forensic Center up on Weekly Lane in Smyrna, we're also building currently a new EMS station on that same campus. It's currently under construction. We just awarded the bid to a local contractor to begin construction. Well, it was out of Nashville, to begin constructing a new EMS station. We anticipate it to be operational by the first of the year.
And one of the great things, whenever those public safety buildings were first implemented and the construction started, a lot of the money for those, it came through COVID dollars, if you would, back when COVID was so big.
Well, that's the problem with free money, Scott. You and I are really
There's
closely
always
aware.
A catch with the government.
There's a huge catch. It's a trap door is what it is. And so we got $64 million in grant money to build these public health and safety buildings, but that grant money didn't include hiring the staff, buying the fire trucks, buying the ambulances, buying the equipment. And as you recall, that is what in the last year of my predecessor's term that, quite honestly, the commission voted on was a $64 million budgeted deficit, which is funny because, not funny laughable, but funny really strange, because one of my opponents in the mayor's race is bragging about how they're responsible for achieving a AAA bond rating. Well, he also needs to admit that he's responsible in part for the $64 million budgeted deficit, because he voted for that budgeted deficit. And the previous year's budget deficits were also record budget deficits. So that's in the past. That's history. What we have been able to do the last 4 years, it's set the table right. We've balanced budgets, no property tax increases, take care of our employees, and absolutely protect those 3 AAA bond ratings that we have, which is extremely rare in local county government across this country.
Do you remember back when the Del Webb community announced they're going to be building on Highway 96, and part of the big to-do was they donated a parcel of land in the front.
We still have that.
And that's for, they said, the purpose of a public safety building.
Yep.
Is that something, have you all started building there?
No, we have not. Quite honestly, we still have that. I think it's about 2 acres right there on the corner. We still have that property. And
is it needed out there?
At some point it will be. But what we're trying to address, just because the one thing you don't want to do is build a county building in an area that doesn't function or serve its purpose. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to step back and we're trying to identify those high growth areas that are inadequately served first. That's not one of those areas, just be quite honest with you. What we do have is an area more towards Almaville that is our next focus for a public health and safety building, and that will probably be in 3 to 5 years. And we're waiting on Smyrna to extend their sewer down Almaville Road to the Independence Hill area, which is close to where we currently have a volunteer fire station, and maybe upgrade that in the next 3 to 5 years. But we're waiting on that sewer trunk line.
And before I say this, let me preface, this is totally unrelated to the Del Webb community.
It's kind of like Swap and Shop. We're back to that.
Jumping all over the place. Do some developers, though, do they come in and they say, we're going to build this neighborhood with X amount of homes, going to have a playground for kids, going to be great, beautiful, fantastic, and we're going to donate 5 acres to the county to build X, Y, Z? Do they do that for just PR?
No, they obviously.
And I'm saying Del Webb aside.
No, and that is not uncommon. And that is, quite honestly, the developers that do that the most are the local developers, if you want to know the truth about it, not the out-of-state developers. And the reason the local developers are more inclined to do that is because they live here. Yeah. They grew up here. They work here. And they're invested in this community, not just in its development, but in the quality of life. And so we do get that every now and then, and we appreciate it. Whether it's a convenience center, a public health and safety building, a school, it doesn't matter. We find many times, not all the time, but many times they are trying to donate parcels of land to back to the county in an effort to meet the infrastructure needs that development is going to require. And we appreciate that when it happens.
I know one of the questions we had texted in earlier this morning that said, for when the mayor's on, it was asking about the idea of the county actually building a park, as opposed to, because you have Murfreesboro Parks and Rec, you've got Smyrna Parks and Rec, you got Laverne. Yeah. Is there any thought put into that idea of
you must county? You must be reading my emails, Scott.
Every day. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. Public information request. What we started doing the last year or two is, especially because of Plan Rutherford and because of our need to manage our growth. We need growth, but it needs to be managed, and it needs to be managed that reflects our principles and values, the ones that we grew up, because you and I grew up here, and we love it here. There's a reason why we live here. We could live anywhere if we wanted to, but we choose to live here because of the quality of life. Well, that quality of life is really a mixed bag of rural, agricultural, urban, suburbs. It's all of that together. MTSU, industry, the whole 9 yards. And so Murfreesboro and Smyrna have a Parks and Rec program that's very aggressive, and that helps the county too, quite honestly, and we know that. But what we started doing the last 2 years in the communities of Kittrell, Lascassas, Rockvale, we started to develop at those older schools, especially where we have a public health and safety building, through our conservation board. We're starting to develop programs and recreational activities, and not parks so much, but park-like atmosphere for those communities to maintain that quality of life.
I know the city has said it over and over again how some big corporations, they'll be looking at our area versus maybe Franklin versus Nashville because they want to locate in Middle Tennessee. And one of the things these companies and corporations look for are a park system, an active park system.
Yeah, they do. Remember, a lot of times these corporations are coming from a California or an Illinois or New York or some urban area where big government doesn't mind having really high taxes, and you get a lot of amenities for those high taxes like parks and public transportation. All of that costs a great deal of money. Here in the South, we've kind of taken a little bit different approach. It's more of a, those things are nice, but are they so nice and important that we want to raise people taxes? And the people have said, we don't think so, but there ought to be got some kind of balance. And so we're trying to incorporate more of those parks and recreational piece into our lifestyle without creating the financial burden that they require that the other states have provided in the form of higher taxes. So we're trying to find that balance without raising taxes. And so far we've been successful.
The really cool thing about states like California, as an example, a lot of their city parks, some of them are kind of dangerous,
No, some of them are, you don't want to go there, dangerous.
Right. But the level of national parks they have within California and some other states out west are amazing. I wish we could somehow have more national parks integrated into Tennessee than what we already have. I mean, I know we have national parks right here in our own backyard, Rutherford County, but I do wonder at times, is there a way to somehow have more national parks here?
That's a great trade-off. I know that Tennessee, when I was assistant commissioner at TDEC, one of the departments as admin I supervised was the state parks program. And we have a really, really, in Tennessee, robust state park program. As a matter of fact, it's award-winning across the country. The downside to parks in your state or your community is they don't provide any property taxes or limited tax revenue. So they provide tourism dollars, but you got to make sure that if you do a park in your community, that it provides opportunities as a destination for tourism dollars. So you can recoup the lost tax revenue, because I lost tax revenue over here potentially means a greater tax burden on the constituents, if that makes sense, because you're transferring that tax burden. And so we want to be really careful about not transferring a tax burden just because we have an amenity.
One of the questions we have texted in, actually a couple, but one of them deals with the landfill, and we'll get to that one in a second. But the first one is asking, and I think this was asked last time you were on, but is asking about the idea of having a sewer system in the county. And how expensive would that be?
Billions of dollars, probably.
It would be really
It would be hundreds of millions, because the problem Rutherford County has is its soil. We either have a lot of clay soil, it's not approved for a septic system because it won't, what they call, percolate, or we have an incredible amount of limestone rock.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever had to, and I have, run a track hoe with a hammer, it's how I got this scar. I had a piece of limestone hit me in the face, hammered out a sewer line. And it's just very expensive in Rutherford County to lay utility lines, in particular sewer lines. And it's just expensive. And how do we pay for that? That's the $64 million question, is how do we pay for it? I think a county sewer system would be great, but it's very, very expensive.
How is that going in Eagleville? Because I know one of their big things was they got approval, they got some funding as well in order to start building a sewer system. Have you heard any updates?
They did. When Sam Toon was there, when I was in the State House, this is probably 10 years ago or more. This was more than 10 years ago. It was probably 12 or 14 years ago, back in the mid-2000s or something like that. But anyway, Sam was able, when he was mayor, to get TDEC to give him some grant money to build an extremely large soil site for a drip system. And they were able to do that. And so if you're not on your own septic system out there, I think you can tie into that step system. But I think that step system is now, because of Eagleville's growth, is close to capacity.
I mean, whenever you talk about infrastructure like water, like sewer, you're talking about a major undertaking, especially if it's not there already.
That's correct. That's exactly right. And a sewer system takes a lot of water, fresh water, to purify the waste, the human waste.
And I guess... Well, you got the Harpeth River that flows next to Eagleville, but not in Eagleville.
Yeah, it's right. It's real close.
Yeah,
it's a starting point. It's pretty close by, is what I understand. So that's exactly right.
I guess they couldn't physically utilize that water because it's not in their county.
Eagle's problem is they don't have a close, reliable source of above ground water. It's basically an aquifer that they're sitting on, or CUD provides them water like they do, and CUD does a real good job out there, but you've got that issue out there that restricts in part their growth.
They literally have to build another Percy Priest out there, much smaller, but they'd have to build something like that can hold water.
There would need to be a reservoir out there, and so where would you what would you dam up out there to get that reservoir?
Yeah.
What is an interesting concept, and I've talked to Mike Hollingshead briefly about this, and just in a casual conversation, some of the others, a great sitting reservoir of water is a number of these quarries. Because you have these rock quarries that then they extract all the material, rock out that they're done, and then because they tap into this groundwater all the time, when they're abandoned or they're left, they fill up full of water. And so that is a huge reservoir of water that potentially could be tapped into. So I know there's been some conversations about how do we do that.
I wonder, how do you get that, high calcium that's in the, because there's all types of minerals and stuff that are in the water.
Look, limestone, brothers, calcium. I got it bad out on my farm. It's bad.
Yeah, some of which isn't very safe,
it's hard water.
Which you don't think about.
We have real hard water around here.
We do.
Real hard.
So the middle point related question,
yes, sir.
It says the county has expressed a lot of opposition to any expansion of the landfill, which I know the city, everybody has for the most part. It says, what is the long-term plan as it stands now for waste management, assuming expansion is permanently blocked out there?
Okay, so this is going to take a minute, so we may go across the break on this answer. So when you get where you got to take a break, I need you just to interrupt me, because there's a lot of disinformation out there because it's the election season. So Middle Point Landfill is a privately owned corporation. Republic Services owns Middle Point Landfill. Because it's a privately owned entity, and because of the horrible contract that Rutherford County signed in 1995, Rutherford County has very little and, quite honestly, no oversight. None. We don't get to dictate to Republic what they bring in, when they bring it in, how much they bring in, or where they bring it in from. Not at all. As a matter of fact, it says that in the contract. Yeah, 1995. And so we sold our birthright. So they've been out there operating for years. They bring in over 1 million tons of trash every year into the county. And of that 1 million tons, about 700,000 tons comes from outside the county. Murfreesboro City and Rutherford County Convenience Centers, Murfreesboro pickups, curbside pickup, and Rutherford County Convenience Centers currently take all their trash to Middle Point. That's the agreement. We get to take our trash generated through the convenience centers and Murfreesboro's through their curbside pickup to Middle Point. That constitutes about 100,000 tons a year total between Murfreesboro and Rutherford County.
That's a big number off from 1 million tons.
It's 10%.
Yeah.
It's 10%. Now, there's another 200,000 that's generated within the county by the commercial haulers that they pay a tipping fee at Middle Point. And so what we did when we built the transfer station, we were saying at some point in time, Middle Point Republic is going to close their landfill. We think it's going to be in 2, 3, 4 years, but we don't know, because Middle Point Republic controls that spigot. They can dial it up or dial it back. It's a private enterprise. So what we decided is that we better build a transfer station. We better have a solution for our trash in Rutherford County. I'm talking about the convenience center trash and Murfreesboro's trash that's going to Middle Point. We need to have a solution for that trash before Middle Point closes. It's akin to this. You decide you're going to go on a trip with your family to Memphis or out west, and you decide to get in your car and you're driving out west. You realize that the gas tank is getting empty, but you don't get gas until you run out of gas. Now, the problem with that, Scott, is if you run out of gas on the side of the road, you got no way of getting gas. You're stuck. Yeah. And that's essentially what my opponent wants us to do. He wants us to wait until Middle Point is full and it's closed before we have a solution in place. And that's akin to running out of gas on the side of the road. And we're not going to do that. That's horrible business. That's a horrible practice, and it makes absolutely no sense. So we built a transfer station. We are bringing commercial trash from the county to our transfer station, and we're generating $1 million of new revenue every year into the county while we wait for Middle Point to close.
Again, with us this morning, Rutherford County Mayor Joe Carr, and we are going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back. And if you have any questions, feel free to text those in right now, 615-893-1450.
We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios.
This is the WGNS Action Line. Talk Rutherford County News
Since 1947.
The WGNS Action Line.
Hi, this is Nick Hayes with Toots Restaurants. Visit Toots.com to order online, for delivery, pickup, or check out our new merch. Toots.com.
Hi, this is Wade Hayes at Toots Restaurants. By now, you probably know we've been open over 40 years in the oldest full-service restaurant in Murfreesboro, but we're on our 23rd year in Smyrna.
Hi, this is Jack Hayes with Toots Restaurants. Toots, good food and fun since 1985.
Good food and fun.
Holden Hardware has been serving the hardware needs of this community since 1948. This is Raleigh Holden Jr. I want to thank our many customers who have helped to keep us in business all these years. I also want to invite those who may be new to this community or have not been in the store lately to visit us. Come experience a unique hardware buying atmosphere with wood floors, old furniture and fixtures, along with a helpful and knowledgeable sales staff. Holden Hardware on the west side of the public square since 1948.
When I eat healthy, I can eat at Demas's. When I want to eat unhealthy, I can eat at Demas's. If I'm in the mood for pasta, I go to Demas's. If I want steak, I go there. It does not matter what I'm in the mood for. This is Peter Demas. The only thing we don't have is fried food. So it's very easy when you want to take a group out and there's that veto power person who's like, I don't want this. Well, we usually will have something that they want because we have such variety on our menu. The only thing we don't have is fried food. Demas's Restaurant on Northwest Broad Street.
The Action Line on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
With us this morning in studio, we have Rutherford County Mayor Joe Carr. What else is happening within the county? I know we only have like 8 minutes left, but what else is happening?
Yeah, well, real quick, let me follow up. You and I were off air, we're talking about the Middle Point situation. Let me just say that to the listeners, that in the contract that the county signed with Republic back in 1995, and bless their hearts, my opponents probably don't know this, but it would help if they would read the contract. Republic can close Middle Point with 30 days notice for any reason at all.
Just shut down.
Yeah, lock the gates.
So if that happens, what would
happen? What if we didn't have the transfer station and that happened? What would Rutherford County do? Because what would we do with the trash at our convenience center, and what would Murfreesboro do with their curbside, that 100,000 tons? And Republic got to be a unworkable, untenable neighbor, and they got to be unreliable. We found the things that they were saying were untrue, and that has been fact-checked to be the case. And with them having the ability lawfully to close Middle Point with 30 days notice, and with the county not having a plan B, that was a horribly untenable situation. So when one of my opponents says we built the transfer station too early, I don't think he understands at all the issues that were at play, and we didn't build it too early. As a matter of fact, we could have built it sooner because it's generating this $1 million of revenue back to the county.
Another one of the questions we had was about the old Bank of America building, and they were asking, when is that sale actually going to go through, and if so, when is not the upgrade, but
the renovation?
You were going to do major renovations.
Yeah, so we're close to closing on that piece of property. We're waiting on the architect to come back with the estimate for how we're going to renovate it and what those renovation costs are going to be. As a matter of fact, I've got a meeting with Bart Klein, the architect, this afternoon on the BOA building. We anticipate to have a closing probably within the next 60 days. And
what did the county get the price to as far as buying it? Okay, $8 million. Mm-hmm. And then the cost to actually do all the renovations.
I'm guessing because I'm waiting on Bart to come back with these numbers, but it's going to be in the $7 to $9 million range. So we'll have a brand new building for about $16 million all in.
So what employees
those are just real rough numbers, and until I get Bart Klein back in here, and I won't know for certain, but we think that's what it's going to be in that range.
So what county offices will be located there?
We're going to take everybody out of Goldstein, which is planning and engineering. It is the codes department. It is the Office of Elections, which is Alan Farley's department, and it is pretrial services. So those are the 5 departments that are coming out of Goldstein, and we're trying to get Larry Farley, the Rutherford County Fire and Rescue. He needs admin space. He has no admin space out there in Barfield, so we're looking at moving him into this facility, and we're also looking at moving our finance department, or a portion of our finance department, out of the courthouse into the BOA building.
And when you say pre-trial offices, are you talking like the DA's office?
Pre-trial services. So, these are pre-trial services.
What is that?
That basically assists somebody with understanding the judicial process if they're going to trial. It's a service that the state and the county provide, that we're required to provide. And it's if you've been arrested or you've been charged with something, you go there and they assist you with the process.
I know one of the other bigger items that we learned about over the last, I'd say 12 or so months, is a big project that is in the proposal stages in Laverne, and that is a major structure that's going to be a multi-use building, everything from office space to retail, restaurants, and everything. And I know the developer talked about how that's going to generate around $1 billion. And I'm curious I know the planning department gave the okay on it within Rutherford County. And part of that okay was there was a type of tax break or TIF funding, I believe.
There was a TIF. And basically a TIF is nothing more than we freeze the taxes at the current rate for like 10 years. And they use that, what they call that deferral, to help finance the package. And then after 10 years, it gets assessed and we recover that after 10 years. But it's a way to encourage development and provide some financing for the developer to produce jobs and retail revenue, which is sales tax. And most of the time, the payback for the county is 2 to 3 years.
So where does all of that stand today? Because that side of Rutherford County, that north portion of Rutherford County, I mean, it could use something like this.
Well, if we're talking about the same development, it's currently under construction.
So it's already underway.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It's currently under construction, and it's a multi-phase development, like a lot of these projects are, Scott. So it'll be several years before it's completed and completely built out. But my understanding, it is currently under construction up there on Sam Ridley Parkway.
And so that project right there, that's going to have the potential to have a lot of housing. I mean, and they're not talking about low-end housing.
No.
They're talking about nice condominiums, townhomes, things along those lines.
That's right. And so, again, all those generate growth and revenue to the county. But the $64 million question, that was our budget deficit when I came into office. The $64 million question is, are we placing, with this development or any other development, an undue burden on the existing property tax base? And that is always the question we're trying to resolve. So that isn't the case. The poor farmer who happens to be a mayor in Las Casas with 95 acres should not be burdened with a property tax rate that pays for a development in Smyrna. And so a TIF literally helps alleviate a lot of that kind of property tax pressure.
We got a real short question we'll get to at the very end, but I'm curious, do you think we need more of these like townhome type developments, if anything, because those are right now more affordable than a standalone house?
No, we don't. We don't need more of them. As a matter of fact, townhomes, apartments, we probably need less of because it creates density issues and it creates a real burden on our K-12, Rutherford County K-12 public education system. So the answer for me is no. We don't need more density. We probably need to dial back the density a little bit and be very careful about approving more of these multi-unit complexes. They need to fit in to the existing culture or environment that they're being proposed to.
Yeah, housing in general is so expensive right now.
It is.
Of course,
But it's a supply and demand issue.
Yeah.
The demand for Rutherford County is higher than the supply.
Last question of the morning. It says here, good morning, Mayor Carr. Would it be in the budget to provide our citizens and visitors with a public restroom? And I assume they're referring to the downtown square.
That wouldn't be your father who sent that in, would it, Bart?
It would not be.
Because Bart and I have talked this a lot. The problem with that is that's a question for the city.
Yeah.
The city owns and has authority with all property around downtown. So if they were talking, your dad and I talked about this a lot, I am all for something like that, but it would have to be within permitting of the city because they have that authority.
And the county courthouse is closed on Saturday and Sundays, is it not?
It is.
Again, with us this morning, Rutherford County Mayor Joe Carr, and we appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, so we're almost done with early voting. We got May election coming up, May 5th. Everybody go vote. It's responsible. It's a good thing to do. And so exercise that authority, Scott. Go vote, please.
We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios. Middle Tennessee Electric, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the WGNS Action Line. Talk Rutherford County News
since 1947.
The WGNS Action Line.
Hi, this is Dan with Music World and Drummers Den. Our prices are as good or better than the box stores. I don't think you'll do better by shopping online than you would by coming in. If you're into podcasting, we have starter kits that have everything you need to get started. The interface for your computer, microphone, headphones, you'll be online in no time. If you need a PA, you need lights, we've got all for rent. Music World and Drummers Den, 2762 South Church Street, right across from the golf course.
Hi, I'm Clarissa Smith, candidate for School Board Zone 4. I believe parents are the primary authority in their children's lives. On the board, I'll be your advocate, ensuring transparency, respecting your values, and putting our students first. Let's work together to make our schools the best they can be. I'm Clarissa Smith, humbly asking you for your vote for School Board Zone 4.
Paid for by Friends of Clarissa Smith, School Board Zone 4. Clarissa Smith, Treasurer.
Do you want your money to work hard for you? Who doesn't? South Central Bank has 2 CD specials that will help your money grow. South Central Bank has a 5-month CD with an annual percentage yield of 4.15% or a 25-month CD with an annual percentage yield of 3.8%. 2 great ways to put your money to work. You choose the term that works best for you. $500 minimum balance to obtain the APY. Stop at our location at 1602 West Northfield Boulevard in Georgetown Park today and take advantage of our 2 great rates. South Central Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.